For Manchester United, all their eggs are very much in the Europa League basket. And after a dramatic comeback against Lyon, Kweku, can they go on and win it?
Hate to admit it, but yeah, they can. This is a Manchester United team that, despite over the last 2-3 years not being very good, they win trophies. You think about in Ten Hag's first season, they won the League Cup and got to the FA Cup final, obviously losing against City. In Ten Hag's second season, they finished 8th in the league but won the FA Cup. And this season, despite all the frailties that we see that are so clear and obvious in Manchester United, they managed to find a way through it. You can say what you like about this group of players, but when it comes to winning these frivolous ancillary trophies, they've got a knack of doing it. And it even goes back to Jose Mourinho's time at Manchester United. In his first season, finished outside the top 4, but won the League Cup and won the Europa League. And I feel like it's just destined for this United side to meet Spurs in the Europa League final unfairly, I think. I don't think they deserve it. Look at the performances in the league, even in this competition where I know that they are still unbeaten, technically, in Europa League, but they've not been good enough. They were bailed out of it last week against Lyon. Harry Maguire, obviously, with a dramatic winner at Old Trafford. But this is not a very good Manchester United team. It's not a vintage team. And they play against a Bilbao who've got their sights set on playing a Europa League final in their own stadium. There is nothing like it. And for them, this would be the pinnacle. And for Manchester United, it's just a means to get into the Champions League. But for some reason, I feel Man United are going to do it.
Just going back to that game against Lyon and the way that Manchester United managed to get through in the end, it was one of those moments, I think, that transcends your fandom, if you like.
Yeah.
Like, even as an Arsenal man, I wanted Lyon to go through. I wanted Lacazette to go through. I wanted Maitland-Niles to go through. And obviously, I'm not a massive fan of Manchester United, but when Maguire scored, you just go, wow, don't you? Because such was the... I did, because I thought they were dead and buried. I thought they were dead and buried.
No, I mean, I can't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it. I was pretty upset about it, to be honest.
Hey, hold on. I didn't say enjoy it.
Okay, I didn't even go wow. I think I did a few swear words, and that was my response to it. But what I do have to say about United is they have been better, haven't they? I mean, we were speaking a few months ago, really talking about Ruben Amorim and whether he needed to alter his system or whether he should just be a bit more stubborn and allow the players a bit of time to work into what he wants from them. And I feel like the players have done that a little bit. The results aren't bad and they are improving. And I think the Lyon game was, as Kweku says, it was kind of like outside of football. It wasn't really about tactics at all towards the end. It was just who wanted it more. And I think because United have players who have played at those big stages, they have Bruno Fernandes, who, no matter what people say about him, has been exceptional for the last 3 or 4 months. One of the best players in the league, to be completely honest. And when it comes to cup football, United do have that dog in them. They don't in the league, but they do here. And that's why I think it's going to be a difficult game against Bilbao because, as you say, the final is at their stadium. Teams who have the final at their stadium almost always get to the final by hook or by crook. It happened when Chelsea won the Champions League. But I just feel like this United team, even though on paper you don't see that much quality, you just feel like they probably will get to the final.
They've got players, and again, this is a term that is more apt in basketball, but they've got clutch players. As much as I don't rate Harry Maguire, he's scored so many clutch goals in his career. Same as Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, Casemiro is part of arguably the most clutch Champions League team of all time, and that Real Madrid team that three-peated. You look at a player like Garnacho, who's had clutch moments for Manchester United, and Kobbie Mainoo, who scored the equaliser, who in his very short career has scored a goal in the FA Cup final, a goal against Liverpool, that goal against Wolves that he scored last minute, that last-minute goal that he scored against Lyon. They've got clutch players, and when you've got that in cup competitions, you've always got an opportunity. So I know it's against all of our better judgments to pick Manchester United, but it's just what they've done in this competition, what they've done in cup competitions recently, and nobody will be surprised to see them lift the silverware.
I know that people will talk about their league position, and rightly so, because it's been really poor in terms of their Premier League campaign. But winning the Europa League does give them a real opportunity to spark the Ruben Amorim era, because at the moment he's come in, it's all been a little bit all over the place. It's taken time for him to get things right. He's had to deal with issues like the Marcus Rashford problem. Obviously, he's gone away and is doing really well at Aston Villa, which speaks to maybe the culture at Manchester United more than it does about Ruben Amorim, I would argue. But you look at, for example, when Mikel Arteta took over at Arsenal, right? And that's an example of a big ship that was going in the wrong direction, needed spinning around, and it took time to turn it around. But winning that FA Cup in that first sort of part of his Arsenal tenure, it wasn't defining in terms of setting Arsenal on the right path. It didn't mean that everything was fixed, but it gave the fans something to latch onto. It gave them something to look at as a reference point and go, hold on a minute, this guy can deliver things. This guy can put us on the right path. So for Amorim, where the league results have not improved, you'd argue that they've got worse, where you've got Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming out and telling everybody that the club was months away from running out of cash. When you think about how severe the issues are at Manchester United, something like this, something like winning this Europa League, it could just spark the turnaround. And that's why I think this is more important to them than just your standard Europa League win. This could be a starting point for them.
I think it depends what happens after. I think almost all of Manchester United's trophies over the last 10 years have been a serious case of papering over the cracks. I think you look at the team now and you look at the team over the last decade since Ferguson left. I think the transfer policy has been utterly pathetic. I think most of the players who are joining that club for the last 5 or 6 years have wanted to be there, A, because of the name of Manchester United, to say that I've played for Manchester United, and B, because of money. And I think what happens if they win the Europa League is that they are in the Champions League, which means you get the pick of the most competitive players. So you now have the name of Manchester United. You have a lot of finance to spend on players, which they do, despite Jim Ratcliffe getting rid of basically everyone else behind the scenes. But they also have Champions League football to attract players. And I think if they do win it, you're right, it will get the fans galvanised, as it always does. It will get some of the players who are staying there long-term galvanised. But what they do after is really, really important. And they need to get their transfer policy right in the summer. And if they are to win this and be in the Champions League, that makes it a lot easier.
Kweku, one of the players that they got to watch out for is Nico Williams. We were both at the Euros, and I remember having this conversation with you at the Euros. I'd gone into the European Championships knowing a bit about Nico Williams, having heard a lot about him, with his reputation growing all the time. But it was only when I watched him in the flesh on numerous occasions that I started to realise, actually, this guy's on his way to being top. Hasn't been a great season for him, though, given the kind of standards that he set in the summer. But he's still very much a danger man for this Athletic Bilbao side.
He is. And they'll be praying and hoping that he's fit. He could be nursing an injury going into that game. But if he is fit, he will give the Man United fullbacks or wingbacks absolute fits. He's a star in the making. And he's a player that he can be direct in terms of taking it on the outside, or he can be a little bit more deft in terms of coming on the inside. And like you mentioned, we watched him at the Euros, him on one side, Yamal on the other side, and it was a joy to behold. They were proper wingers. They were doing things that you want your wingers to do. Obviously, in this Bilbao team, he's playing with his brother, dovetailing quite nicely with Iñaki, who's actually been quite good this season, despite the fact that Nico's fallen down a little bit. But he's part of a really good functioning system, and he is that talisman. It's almost like when you had, I compared this Bilbao side a lot to Simeone's Atletico Madrid side in the mid tens, where it's like they're a functional team, but then they've got a superstar. For Atletico, it was Griezmann. For this Bilbao side, it's Williams, and he's a player that, give him the ball, give him a bit of space, and he can cause absolute nightmares for opposition. I want to give a shout out to Bilbao manager though, Valverde. He's probably more remembered for being the manager of that Barcelona team that collapsed at Anfield, taking a 3-0 lead and losing that game 4-0. But this is, like I say, creating a kind of like siege mentality at Bilbao, who are obviously limited when it comes to signing players from the Basque region. And he's the first season finished 8th, last season finished 5th, this season they're currently 4th. He's progressing nicely, and they're a very, very good side, despite the fact that they're not necessarily the best side to watch. So United needs to be on the P's and Q's, but we've all said it before, United have been jamming this competition. I think it might continue.
There's another player in this Athletic Bilbao side that I want to give a shout out to, and that is Sanse, the midfielder. He's got 15 La Liga goals this season.
Yeah.
Very much the kind of midfielder the type of midfielder that likes to arrive late in the box, and he's obviously very, very competent in front of goal. Do you worry, Kim, that Manchester United's defensive lapses, which we've seen time and time again this season, are going to cost them against a side that does have undeniably a lot of attacking talent?
Yeah, I mean, they concede a lot of goals, United, don't they? I think just looking at it here, 10 goals in the last 3 games that they've conceded. It's not really good enough. And you are right, like, Athletic Bilbao do have quite a lot of killers. They have a lot of people who have a natural nous for goal. I think what's going to really harm United, particularly in this first leg, is, as Kweku said, that siege mentality. That mentality of going to a club like Athletic Bilbao. And we say it often about Liverpool, and we say how special it is to go to Anfield. And Anfield and people of Liverpool, the Scousers, have a similar thing as Athletic Bilbao have, where they are so ingrained, every person is so ingrained with the Basque Country and with the club, that I think it makes it an incredibly difficult place to go. And I think this first leg is where I do see United falling down. I would be very surprised if they go there and win this game. I just think that overall, over the 2 legs, I think United will probably just have a little bit too much, just because of what we've said. There's no real rhyme or reason. When you look at the teams, they're pretty evenly matched, but I just think over the 2 legs, United will have too much. But I do think in this game, Bilbao stand a very good chance of getting something from it.
On the Sansei point, Ugarte's got a big job on his hands. I know he contributed more going forward than the game against Lyon. He obviously got a goal. But he's going to have to follow him about. He's going to have to follow him about because United haven't quite worked out that midfield dynamic. Casemiro and Ugarte have been the preferred two. Obviously, Kobe Manu coming off the bench and scoring a goal. He puts himself in contention to start. And so that's what you need to watch for Manchester United, because that's been a problem area for a long time. And what they don't want to do is have to lose the attacking threat of Bruno Fernandes, because he has to drop deep to kind of help out the midfield. So I'm really watching that area closely. But you're right to point out Sansei, because he's been incredible for Atletico Bilbao this season.
Generally speaking, I'd normally say that you actually want to play the first leg away from home, knowing that the return leg and the kind of final push is going to be in front of your own fans and at your place. But because of how fragile Manchester United can be, I do wonder if this time actually playing away from home first is potentially harmful to them. Because, we saw them turn it around against Lyon in really dramatic circumstances. You've only got so many of those in the bag per season. I really do believe that. I feel like because of Bilbao's strength at home, they are in a position where they could potentially produce a result that just gives Manchester United too much to do. So I'll kick off with the predictions. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Bilbao win in the first leg. And then I guess the next question is that something that United could turn around?
So to answer that question, I think that turning things around at Old Trafford in the Europa League is slightly different to Old Trafford in the Premier League. To those Bilbao players, Manchester United are still Manchester United, and still Old Trafford is still Old Trafford. I actually think United will get a draw in the first leg, and I feel like they'll take it back to OT and get a jammy win in the second one, unfortunately. 1-1 draw in the first leg.
I think if United lose by 2 or more, I don't think they will be able to overturn it. But I think they'll get lucky here. I think Bilbao will be by far the better team, but they'll win by 1 goal, and then United will win at Old Trafford. I think 2-1 to Bilbao this leg.
Can Manchester United's Europa League run continue? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.